Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. The world's longest-serving monarch is currently lying in state at the historic Westminster Hall ahead of her funeral on Monday. Tens of thousands of mourners have queued for hours and even days to pay their final respects to the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, with many visitors describing the sight of the cloaked coffin, adorned with the imperial state crown, as overwhelming. The Queen's final departure from Buckingham Palace on Friday has become the most emotional event since mourning began a week ago. On today's Channel's Business Global, I'll be examining the meticulous plans in place across the country ahead of the state funeral on Bank Holiday Monday, and I'll be sharing some of the mixed emotions I encountered in Woolwich, South London, where I spoke about the Queen's passing with members of the Nigerian community. Well, as to be expected, tributes have been flooding in from all around the globe, and the domestic newspapers continue to display an outpouring of grief. The Financial Times has this image of the royal family escorting the Queen's coffin in procession to Westminster Hall. The Daily Telegraph shares a similar picture to other papers of the Queen's coffin being taken into Westminster Hall. It also prints a picture of crowds waiting near Big Ben with the Houses of Parliament in the sunset. The Daily Mail gives a poignant look at the Queen lying in state as people bid solemn farewells. Their front page story details how people filed past the coffin to pay their respects to the Queen. The first person to see the monarch's coffin is reported to have camped out since Monday. We'll be looking at more newspaper headlines later in the show, and until then, let's now turn our attention to the centre of gravity in the run-up to the funeral, Buckingham Palace. It is there where I caught up with our correspondent, Simon Pusey. Simon, the past week has been an absolute whirlwind. Britain is in a state of mourning. We're here in Green Park. Buckingham Palace is literally a stone's throw away, and the streams of people have just not stopped, have they?
Yeah, it's unprecedented. Obviously, no one really alive has ever witnessed this before. Most people alive have never had a different monarch than the Queen, and I think a lot of people are very shocked to the extent that she's not with us anymore, because she was the one constant. Prime ministers come and go, governments come and go, but you always had the Queen. And so there's this sense of shock and grief, of course, but also interest in terms of the new king, King Charles III, and what's going to happen next. And yeah, as you say, so many people are clearly so interested in the royal family, because we're never going to see anything like this funeral again, I don't think. TfL, Transport for London, are saying that it's a bigger operation for them than the London Olympics of 2012, which just gives you some kind of sense of the scale. And there are so many people up and down the country are coming to lay flowers, to queue up to see the Queen lying in state, which in some places have taken tens of hours to sort of stand and queue. And I don't think we really realised how respected the Queen was until this happened. You know, a lot of people probably wouldn't call themselves ardent royalists, but they want to go and show their respect, and they want to be here at such a momentous occasion. And it is amazing. The atmosphere is one of, it's quite sombre, everyone's quite calm and quiet and respectful, but it is just an amazing time to be around these parts and to witness this, because yeah, it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like it before, and it's also the pomp and pageantry of it all, which some might say is slightly ludicrous, but we do it quite well. It's all done with military precision, and that's what we're going to see on Monday, of course, with the funeral. They were rehearsing last night, and they'll rehearse many more nights until the funeral happens to get it absolutely spot on. And it's going to be a momentous occasion, and it's amazing times that we're living in. Obviously the Queen had to die at some point, but I think it's just taken people by surprise, especially the speed at which it happened. And just, yeah, there's no playbook really for this. You know, obviously monarchs have died before, but not for 80 years, so it's amazing times to be around. And yeah, I'd say the mood is one of sort of sombre and calm, respectful tones, but it just shows you how respected the Queen was, and I think the monarchy is in quite a good position with the fact that she was so well respected around the world.
I just want to talk a little bit about soft power, because as you said, Simon, I don't think it's really sunk in yet, because 70 years is a long time. You can't get used to somebody not being here just for 7 days. But are there fears that Britain may have lost its soft power? You know, we've diminished our global status around the world recently. Lots of countries are now looking inward. Can King Charles III replicate what his mother was able to do for such a long period of time?
Well, I think that he certainly doesn't have the respect yet that his mother did, of course. I don't think he ever will, because he won't have the chance to reign for as long as she did. But he's certainly, in the first week of his reign, he's done very well. He's said the right things. He seems to have really taken it all. Remember, his mother has just died. He seems to have taken it all with quite
stoicism.
The right kind of tone, exactly.
Yes.
The kind of tone that she would have as well. And he seems to be following in her footsteps. I think continuity was a big thing that he was talking about when he was speaking initially after her death, was that, you know, I will continue to serve the people. And so I think he's going to be sort of reign in her image, really. So while the Queen, you can't replicate the Queen, and I think that was amazing soft power for the UK. The number of prime ministers and presidents she met with other countries who, you know, were totally in awe of her, and you just have to see some of the tributes that have been pouring in from,
including from Putin.
Exactly, and Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. You know, everyone was in awe of her when they met her. I'm not sure if Prince Charles, now King Charles III, has the same kind of reputation or respect around the world, but he's done pretty well in the first seven days of his reign, and people seem to be warming to him. He does seem to be doing pretty well, so, you know, it remains to be seen, of course, but at the moment I think the monarchy's in decent shape.
Thank you, Simon. Well, just a few months ago, the world, particularly Commonwealth nations, was celebrating the late monarch's Platinum Jubilee. During that period, Channel's Business Global had the pleasure of speaking with Baroness Patricia Scotland, the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth. During the discussion, she spoke of the importance of the group while sharing her fond memories of Queen Elizabeth.
The Queen has had such a long-standing love of the Commonwealth, love of the countries within Africa and every other region. So I think if you look at her 70 years, she has dedicated her 70 years to the people of the Commonwealth. I think she was 21 when she first said that it didn't matter whether her life was long or short, the whole of her life would be dedicated to our service, the people of the Commonwealth service. And in those 70 years, since she became Queen at the age of 25, that's exactly what she's done. And I think some people don't understand why does she love the Commonwealth so much. And I think the reason is that when she was a teenager, when she was growing up, of course she grew up during the years of the war. And so she would have watched her father struggle to maintain the values that we all hold dear, equality, the opportunity for peace and justice. But when the United Kingdom was at its worst, at its most vulnerable, what she saw was people coming from the 5 corners of the world, from the Commonwealth, coming to give succour to the United Kingdom. And when nobody else stood with the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth did. And they didn't come as conscripts, they came as volunteers to absolutely support this vision of equality and parity. So I think that dedication that we showed to her, she reflected right back to us. And she's never forgotten it. So when at 21, she said, I'm going to dedicate myself, it was because she knew and she'd seen and she'd felt that this love and support had been reciprocal. She loved the Commonwealth, but the Commonwealth loved her. And the Commonwealth had saved the United Kingdom.
Wow.
And she's never forgotten it.
Wow, so right. It's such an extraordinary period of history, isn't it? And of course, she discovered she would be Queen in Africa, so I'm sure
South Africa.
It does have a special place in her heart. Of course, you are the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
Could I ask you to perhaps share some of your precious time with the Queen and tell me what you personally think of her?
Well, I think she's one of the most extraordinary female leaders ever to have lived. People don't always recognise that that's what she was. When she took the throne at 25, the world was really dominated by male leaders. And yet she had the first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill. She had taken over from her beloved father. I mean, she had no expectation of being Queen at such an early age. She had 2 small children. And yet she took up that mantle so seriously. And what I have seen her do is show kindness and affection. Her ability to listen is quite extraordinary. Some people listen, but they don't hear. She listens and she hears, and then she thinks, I have watched her do it, to say, and what can I do to help? How can I make this better? How can I help my countries to stay united, to love each other a little more? And I think I'll never forget what she said in 1953, and I'd like to read it,
Please,
if I may,
please.
because I think this is probably the best expression of what the Commonwealth is about. She said this. She said, "The Commonwealth bears no resemblance to the empires of the past. It is an entirely new conception, built on the highest qualities of the spirit of man, friendship, loyalty, and the desire for freedom and peace. To that new conception of an equal partnership of nations and races, I shall give myself heart and soul every day of my life." In 1953, few people were talking about the equality of races. Few people understood that the concept of the new Commonwealth was of free, independent countries deciding to come together in friendship to create something entirely different. And I think that that has embodied who she is and how she has reigned. So I think she's extraordinary.
She absolutely is. You've spoken a lot about some of her character traits that draw people to her, but could you speak more on that? Because we know the Commonwealth, particularly Commonwealth nations within Africa, they love the Queen. They do love the Queen. We've been giving our viewers interviews throughout the week. They cannot get enough of it. Why?
But I think it's because she has always loved them. If you think about what she has done, she has visited virtually every single country in the Commonwealth. The only 2 countries in Africa who are Commonwealth members that she hasn't been able to visit is Rwanda, who's the most recent one who came, and also the other one is Cameroon. But every other country she has visited. And when she has visited, she has always warmed to the people. She has particularly shown huge affection to young people, and she's incredibly modern. I mean, this is a sovereign who is, she talked in the 1970s about the Commonwealth being the original World Wide Web. So if you could look through her speeches, she was always ahead, always looking forward. And from 1953, seeing what was beautiful amongst people. And she's so thoughtful. She notices when people are unhappy or not at their ease, and she'll do just something small to help you to understand that she sees you, that she cares about you. And she's also a great woman of faith.
Yes.
So she's taken that commitment very, very seriously. And so I think, I don't know of anyone who has met her who doesn't remain touched by either what she's said or how she's been. And she's so quiet and yet so dynamic.
Wow.
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, I'll be sharing some of the mixed emotions I encountered in Woolwich, South London, where I spoke about the Queen's passing with members of the Nigerian community. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Let's resume by having another look at some headlines from British newspapers. The Eye front page shares this picture and details of the Queen lying in state in Westminster Hall after her coffin was taken there in royal procession on Wednesday. Members of the public have been paying their respects, with the editor describing it as the nation's long goodbye. The paper reports that tens of thousands of people lined the Mall and Whitehall to catch a glimpse of the procession. The Daily Star dedicates most of its front page to Princes William and Harry, standing shoulder to shoulder as their respective wives, Catherine and Meghan, look on solemnly. The paper wonders whether there will now be lasting peace between the couples, following speculation about tensions over the past few years. Elsewhere on the cover, the news that McDonald's will be closed on the day of the Queen's funeral is bound to catch many people's attention. The Daily Express similarly dedicates a whole front page to a powerful image of mourners standing in long lines to pay their respects to the Queen. Now, before we head to Woolwich, let's take a look at some of the business headlines in the run-up to the funeral on Monday. UK unions called a halt to planned industrial action as the death of Queen Elizabeth II plunged the country into a period of mourning. Royal Mail members of the CWU, the RMT and the TSSA had planned to strike in the coming days and weeks as workers demand higher pay and conditions to counter fast rising inflation. To further transport news, rail bosses have confirmed that extra train services will be running for people travelling to the capital to pay their final respects to the Queen. The late monarch is currently lying in state at Westminster Hall for 4 days, from 5 p.m. Wednesday until 6 a.m. on Monday the 19th of September, the day of her funeral. Officials are warning passengers to expect crowded services and congested stations, adding that drivers should avoid the area. Over 1 million people are expected to make the journey. Harrods, John Lewis and Sainsbury's have joined a string of British businesses to confirm that they will be shutting their doors on Monday the 19th of September as a mark of respect to Queen Elizabeth II. The Royal Mail has announced that its postal services will be suspended on the day and online delivery service will be unavailable or limited. The government advises on its website that the additional bank holiday provides no statutory entitlement to time off for workers. In the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's death, there has been mixed emotions expressed on social media about the royal family and its ties to colonialism. The empire that the Queen was born into is long gone, but the crown still reigns far beyond Britain's shores. King Charles III is now head of state in 14 other nations, including Canada, Australia, Papua New Guinea and the Bahamas. Until recently it was 15, but Barbados cut ties with the monarchy late last year. It is thought that several other Caribbean countries, including Jamaica, are planning to follow suit. We went to speak with members of the Nigerian community as well as other Commonwealth nations in Woolwich, South East London, to assess their feelings on the passing of the Queen.
I mean, when I obviously found out the news, I wasn't sad, I wasn't upset. I was just like damn, she's gone, you know. And obviously, I can see like the point of view from the Nigerians, because I'm Nigerian myself. I can see all their points of views of how they think she was racist, this and that. But as a Christian person, me personally, I think I'll just let all that stuff go, and obviously respecting her, because obviously 70 years on the throne, that's a lot of years, and obviously she's gone now. And me personally, I do not disrespect the dead. So whatever rumours that have been here and there, I think I just disregard that. And obviously it happened a lot of time ago. May or may not have been our fault. But yeah, you just got to respect her for what she's done, the things she's done to this country. And hopefully King Charles can do the same as well.
When I hear the news, I feel sad and tear. Like an old woman hold the country from so many years, and as you go down like this, everybody's shocked. Everywhere is quiet now to see what is going on.
I've never met her face to face, but what I can say about her, that she's a lovely mother. You know, when somebody love each other, it carry a lot of things. She's a lovely mother. And she cares for another people. She's a caring mother.
They put the Queen's photograph. They put 1926 to 2022. I said, I saw to 2 white women. I said, what is happening? Well, is the Queen dead or so? They said, yes, he's dead. He appeared on TV last night. I said, oh, what a pity. We lost a very good, very, very good woman. And he lived a long life. So after that, then I saw some few friends, casual friends, and we talked about her. So this Queen, we have missed a very nice woman.
You see, Her Majesty is very kind to everyone. Especially Africa countries, she's very kind to everyone, and everyone love to see her, to hear from her. When Her Majesty speak, it becomes finance. So when we hear of death of the Majesty, we become so sad and painful. She's a very good person, and we thought we get the king to become good like her mother.
So on social media, there was a lot of posts going around about the Queen. It's like, if that was somebody else's grandmother, then they would be feeling it. And they wouldn't like anybody else mocking them. That's what I'm saying. The royal family, there's a lot of controversy with them, but it's like, you shouldn't really mock someone's death. It's not right.
I know that she has done her part. That surely the next king is already there. King making, he already been made ready before the time. That's why it's not very difficult for us to know that it's the next one. And we live our life exactly as we have been living before. And he even promised that he's going to follow his mother's step, even do more than that. So I think that is, I don't find any kind of bad thing or something. Human being will go one day. And living in 96 years, it's not a joke. People can see that maybe it's racist. How did they call them as racist if they allow us from that place, from everywhere, to live here, practicing your own religion, whatever? They have never been discriminating of religion. They allow people to worship, to do whatever. Then about colonialism or something like that is part of the world. What about Africa? They not colonize themselves? Till now, some people say we are going to rule forever in Nigeria, when some people say no, we don't want. So it's a system of human being, particularly the queen that left. She was born in it. That was the system that was placed on the ground for everyone. Even the king that is now installed will continue that way. That is how they build their nation.
Praise the Lord. Surprise, surprise. That is
my memory is the Queen, have brought this nation to the world. She's a very nice woman. Without her, this country would have been going down. But she is very good that people like to come. I like to come and go to Germany because I worked at home with German company, Siemens. So they wanted me to come over and study in their country, because of after work, they teach us good morning, good afternoon, this, that, then they said they will take me. I'd rather come to the country and work for them. I will hear it more than any other place. I said, no, as I've been hearing of London, I've not been to London before. It looked like the greatest nation on earth.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today, but as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global.